J.R. Smith EPA If J.R. Smith is lucky. If fate is as kind to him, he will live a life similar to the one Roy Riegels lived in the many decades after he made what, for many, remains the signature gaffe in the history of American sports. Riegels was a two-way center for Cal Berkeley, one of the best football players in the country, when his Golden Bears faced Georgia Tech in the Rose Bowl on Jan. 1, 1929. In the second quarter of his scoreless game, Riegels jumped on a fumble by Tech's Jack "Stumpy" Thomason at the Yellow Jackets' 30-yard line. Riegels grabbed the ball, started to make a glorious dash for the end zone, and somehow, someway, unforgettably, got shoved by a tackler and instead of falling down found himself headed in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, it wasn't until he was caught by his teammate, Benny Lon, at the Cal 3-yard line, and then joined by a gang of Tech players who tried to shove him into the end zone but instead brought him down at the 1. Cal tried to neutralize Riegels' mistake by immediately punting, but of course the punt was blocked for a safety. It was 2-0 Tech. It ended 8-7 Tech. And for the rest of his life, Riegels had a new middle name. To his dying day of March 26, 1993, he was known eternally as Wrong Way Riegels, the man who'd made the dumbest mistake anyone ever saw on the biggest stage of all. Funny thing, though, Riegels not only owned his goof, he decided he would make the most of it. He never declined an interview about it. He always poked fun at himself. When Tech playfully offered him a membership card to the school's Letterman Club 42 years after his run, he graciously accepted and said, "Believe me, I've earned this." In a comment J.R. Smith might want to pay attention to, Riegels once said, "You run the wrong way with a football in front of 60,000 people, and it's pretty hard to lie your way out of it." More importantly, whenever he saw another athlete suffer a similar fate in his lifetime, he immediately reached out. When the Vikings' Jim Marshall famously did the same thing in 1964, without a teammate to stop him from completing the safety himself, he received a telegram from Riegels that said, "Welcome to the club." It seems like Smith will probably lie freed from the burden of feeling too devastated by his brain lock moment the other night, when he clearly thought the Cavaliers were ahead after he snared a key late-game rebound, though he foolishly insisted otherwise later, after a nation of lip-readers had already seen him indict himself. In truth, it's probably the best way to be, because being able to laugh at yourself is one way to walk out of such an embarrassing moment with your self-esteem somewhat intact. Take Garo Yepremian, the Dolphins kicker who made the ill-fated attempt to throw a pass after he had a field goal blocked late in Super Bowl 12, saw his wounded duck intercepted and brought back for a touchdown by Washington's Mike Bass, and briefly imperiled Miami's perfect 1972 season. Within weeks, Yepremian was a guest star on The Odd Couple. He kicked another 6 years with the Dolphins, 9 overall in the NFL, and even made All-Pro the very next year. All you have to do is see the reactions of his teammates in the Super Bowl video to know they wished he suffered in the moment as much as they did. Fred Merkle received one of the unforgettable names of all time, Bonehead, because his failure to touch second base late in the 1908 season cost the Giants the NL pennant. The resulting and lasting description of that play, Merkley's boner, has thrown generations of 13-year-old boys into hysterics whenever they come across it in a baseball history book. Merkle had a terrific 20-year career, but when he died in 1956, that two-word description was in the first paragraph of every obituary. Then there is Chris Webber, whose terrific NBA career helped him overcome calling the timeout he didn't have at the end of the 1993 NCAA Finals. Of course, since his Michigan team and its banners were all vaporized by the NCAA Enforcement Committee a few years later, did that ever really happen at all? Smith should only be that lucky. VAC's Wax. The only surprise with the news that my amazing teammate Larry Brooks will become a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame is that he hasn't already been in there for 10 or 15 years. I'm sure the news has Dan Boyle in a good mood, wherever he is. Round darling, right, and Mr. Met joined the Ford family, Kendall and Nick, front, and dad John at Shannon Ford Field. AP on Saturday morning, 4 teams of girls from the 6th through the 8th grades played the first doubleheader at Shannon Ford Field in Little Falls, NJ. MLB raised $250,000 in a nationwide auction to help finance the creation of this park to honor the Mets' late media relations executive. Nice work there by everyone. Ever been a few furlongs behind the pop culture curve and not realize it? I admit that's where I was until I watched the first Deadpool movie last week. Now I get it, and now I must run to the sequel. You think the Yankees are going great now, just you wait until they get Jacoby Ellsbury back. Whack back at back Bob Smith. My first team was the Sixers of Wilt Chamberlain, Hal Greer and Chet the Jet Walker, who couldn't get by Bill Russell. Jumped on the Knicks bandwagon in the late 60s and got to see Cowens and Co. get theirs. The Dean Meminger game in '73 and the Cavs win in Boston are real highlights for those of us who feel the same way about anything Boston. However much the Celtics may have been likable, I'm pretty sure what I heard when I opened my window late Sunday night was America cheering. Matthew Boccaccio. I'm a baseball purist and hate the DH, but after the Mets had not one but 2 starting pitchers injured while batting this year so far, maybe time to reconsider. I never thought I'd be riding shotgun with you on that one, but my resistance has been shattered. I'm tired of watching pitchers hurt themselves and hurt my eyes trying to do something they aren't trained to do after Little League. At Where Eskernan, Mike, you have to let it go. You care more than J.R. Smith does. At Mike Back, alas, I think America's most beloved sports writer is right about that one. Kevin Bryant, The Americans series finale reminded me of your recent column on the Celtics. Rooting for the bad guys never seemed so right. The Celtics is Cold War communists. I can live with that. I loved the way the show wrapped up. And the one scene, if you saw it, you know the one I mean, was just elite TV at its finest.